A pleasure to meet all at last. Yeah. About 3 months it has been since I had last made a video to HWH. Some might wonder why. Well, for a few different reasons. You probably noticed in some videos in which my hand was actually wrapped. Well, that's because I had an on-site job injury that happened back in May, and since then I had mostly recovered from a lot of that stuff. There hasn't been that many videos that I have made, especially during that time, but you could say that since then, I've mostly stalled a lot of projects. And so, I'd say by now, I'm more than okay to get back to work, and more importantly, I'm gonna do what I can to ensure that I can keep up with whatever material I have left. Because Hot Wheels Hilarity is not the only thing I have to worry about here, but also other series that are still going on. I Found It First, HJN, whatnot. Well, for the most part, what I can say is that even though there hasn't been very much for me to come up with for HWH, I have at least had some feedback on my videos. First off, I've had a couple of questions that I feel like I should probably answer real quickly. One of these is, of course, relating to, of all the episodes that I've made for HWH, which would have to be the best? Well, first off, it's a bit hard to piece it all together because I've made a lot of episodes over the years, and with all the ones that I have put together, lots of unique ideas, lots that have had creativity put into them, lots that have started in various locations, utilizing the natural environment, utilizing whatever track pieces or special kits and assembly projects I've put together, especially when it comes to all the track builder accessories, kits, sets, etc. that I bought over the years. What I will at least say though is that there's been a good amount of material for me to work with since that very point in which I had started all this. It started with a bunch of cars being shot through a booster back in 2018, but by now we're at the point in which that I've come around and at least had a few newer sets to work with. Not just Track Builder, but also the more recent Action series. And you might be familiar with a few sets that I made. There, of course, was the Spiral Crash sets, which I have made a few episodes of. There was also the DC Killer Croc set, in which that was, by the way, how I managed to end Season 11 of HWH. But, for the most part, while I do have some of these sets still, and I probably will have some videos of them made, the main thing that I'm trying to focus on here are some of the more recent things circulating around HWH, and more importantly, Hot Wheels in general. Because of the fact that there's been a lot of media of Hot Wheels, including 2 video games known as the Unleashed duology, there was even announcements because of the success of the Barbie movie 2 years ago that Mattel Studios just might create a Hot Wheels movie. Yeah, this would technically be the first ever live-action Hot Wheels film. And this is mostly coming from the fact that while Hot Wheels cars are not an easy feat to create, you could probably do much more than what you'd normally expect. But knowing Mattel and the more than $1 billion in the box office they ran away with Barbie, of course they're going to want to follow up with something more bigger and more constructive, like Hot Wheels or Thomas and Friends, because they are the owner of that franchise as well. They also have Bob the Builder, Parney. I guess you could say Mattel is growing to be such a big giant, like many other things. There was all that talk about Hasbro doing that stuff, but Mattel has actually been doing a lot of favors for us. Barbie, while probably not the best example as to create a unique world full of dolls, it still did a decent job at giving us that unique world in which that Barbie built up to over the years. And now that we're building up to a certain Hot Wheels related world, of course they're gonna have that sort of thing put on the big screen. There was even a theme park, believe it or not. Mattel's Adventureland, over in Arizona. I can't be sure if I want to check that out or not. So, anyways though, the main questions that I have, first of all, what exactly is my favorite HWH episode? Well, as you probably would have guessed, some of the best episodes that I had mostly took place during Season 7. By late 2022, I was well into the 100,000s worth of views for most of my videos that time. And even though more recently, we have been seeing a lot of bigger videos out there, especially knowing that the view counts have been soaring, especially because of paid promotion coming through. Due in part to my work with Google, I can more than happily give out a few examples in which, of course, we'll have to include the obligatory Spinning Rotors and the Immortals. It not only was big because of its inclusion of the song Immortals, first made popular in the Disney film Big Hero 6 in 2014, but 8 years later, it shows up in Hot Wheels Hilarity. Slightly modified though, because I still didn't exactly have all that much for royalties based on copyrighted music. Even now, I still sometimes struggle with handling royalties, in spite of the fact that the money I've made from a lot of my work and a lot of the advertising I put together, of course the money I put out to royalties in order to legally use music in my work doesn't always show up. But with other examples of HWH episodes, I will say that some of the more recent picks out there, especially ones that marathon for good long periods of time, there of course were the more recent Track Builder Elemental packs, as I referred to them. Those sets in particular were basically boxes full of pre-built sets that came with different stunts, different starters, different pieces altogether, and also having different colors. And they uniquely match different elements like electricity, fire, and ice. So I liked those 5 sets when I collected them over time, and I was also able to get a good amount of videos with them. But I will say that when I made a pretty big episode containing pretty much all of the pieces from all 5 stunt kits, that was enough to really satisfy a lot of viewers at that time. And more importantly, it was not only the beginning of one season, but it was enough to end a full season entirely. So you could say that while that season in particular, with 8 and 9 mostly benefiting from those sets, they sure did a lot to boost viewership, but also to get a lot of opportunity for creativity, especially if Track Builder was slacking off a bit. But then of course, there comes a few others. Such episodes that I made, such as when I used the basement party room of a local shop. Those episodes gave me a lot of ideas and creativity to work with, considering how big space the place was, until the ownership switched around and I was told to leave. Yeah, barely lasted for 3 years in that place. On the other hand though, getting to work around here at my place, out here on this deck, I've made some episodes more recently in this area just as well. But for the most part, I've centered a lot of my episodes on a cover on top of my jacuzzi in the patio room, which is probably the most common place that we've seen regarding HWH episodes. So if those are good examples, then that's pretty much what I can say. While I probably won't have enough to remember all the names of these episodes, but more importantly, the creative function that I made and all the episodes I made together, more than 300 of them to work with. But still, it's August 18th, and I feel like by now, it's time to get on back to work. I'm probably going to have a lot of episodes worth of material to put together here for the next couple of months, but rest assured, this probably won't phase in my current schedule, and I do have a good amount of episodes that'll hopefully close out the series entirely. So for the next week or so, do expect a lot of more episodes to show up. Until then, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow me wherever you can find me, and stay on the Hollywood side for more.